And do you see my slides? Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So Christian, thanks again for the invitation. I'm very happy to be with you tonight to talk about this very nice project for community in animal science. And many thanks to all the people that were doing the tweets to disseminate the presentation of today. So thanks a lot. So Pre-Community in Animal Science is a free publication model for transparent and open science based on peer reviews. And it belongs to the family, a family called Pre-Community in. I will talk in detail later. So this family was created, this project was created in Rae in France, but it is an international initiative. So Christian already gave you some details about about myself. So I am researcher at INRAE in France, but I am here today more to share with you the experience that we are doing in open science actions. And so I am Office Science Officer of the Graduate School Biosphere at the University Paris in France. And as Christian said, I'm the founder of this initiative, particularly Community in Animal Science. And I think it's also very important, I always used to say this, that I'm not an outsider of the current publication system. So during the presentation, I will point out some weakness of the current publication system, but I belong to the system as well. I always like to point this because I'm not an outsider, and this means that I continue publishing and participating in the review process of classical journals. I also, like some of you, also participate in editorial boards. So in my case, I am a member of the scientific board of the journal Animal. So with this, then, the objectives of this presentation is to introduce the initiative PCI Animal Science. Although the effort that we have done to communicate, we realize that this initiative is not known enough in the community. So I thank again Christian for letting me introduce and present to you this initiative. And of course, the objective behind is to motivate you to be part of it and to join us. So I'm going to start by talking about the publication landscape and some problems that we have. This is something that most of you know, but I want to point out some particular aspects of the current publication system. One of them is that the evaluation process is a black box. And with this black box, it means that, for example, we don't have information in some cases about the data, right? So some articles, for example, don't publish the raw data. So this is very difficult then to reproduce the research outcomes. So that we have, with this type of system, difficulties for reproducibility of science. And there are other aspects associated with the quality, for example, of the evaluation itself, because the reader, for example, doesn't have information about the process of evaluation, and this can have also impact on the quality. Here we mentioned some conflict of interest because the conflict of interest, for example, when we work works that are associated with the industry, we need to be very careful because it has been shown that there is a bias when research is funded by the industry. It doesn't mean that is a bad practice. It's just that there is an intrinsic bias, and sometimes it is important that these conflict of interest are declared. So many journals also allow to declare this type of information. So it is important for the reader to understand also the context of the research. And when I talk about the lack of transparency of this black box, also is related with some bad practice in science, like the harking, right? I think you probably are familiar already with this term. So we change our hypothesis after the results are known, and this is something that is found in the scientific literature, in the research publications. And this means that 20 to 60% of the studies are not reproducible, because we cannot track actually what is the original idea, the original hypothesis behind the research. So with this black box we have. So we identify that there is a issue in terms of how science is evaluated. Okay. Another aspect very important, that we are talking about a system that is closed. So around 50% of the population in open access. So this is huge body of knowledge that is not accessible for the community. And also, you know that the publication is dominated by big, and here we have an example of the domain is social sciences, and you can see that it's almost 50% of the publications are mainly covered by 5 publishers. So this is something that concerns us as researchers. Another aspect is that actually there is a huge margin of profit for these companies, and you can see here a figure that compares the margin of profits of the main commercial publishers, and you can see in green also the margin of profits of companies like Amazon and Apple, and you can see that is a very profitable business, the scientific publishing. And what is shocking is that we as researchers do most of the work, and we do it for free, as reviewers, as editors. So these companies are actually taking a lot of money and away from science, because the money goes to the commercial publishers. And as I told you, I belong also to this system. So we are paying to have access to the information. So our institutions pay the subscription of journals to break the paywall. So we are saying that we pay twice, because we pay to read and we pay to publish. For example, when we decide to publish our articles in open access journals, in which we need to pay the article processing charge, the APC, which is actually, we cannot deny that it's an important model, the APC-based journals, because they have broken the barrier of access, right? So this we cannot deny this, and it's very important to have these journals. And in the middle, we have the hybrid journals that, well, work with the 2 models. So actually, we are paying the journal twice, to read and to publish. Well, and we can also consider that actually we pay 3 times, because as I said before, most of the work, the main work of the publication process is done by us, researchers, for free. So our institutions are paying our salaries, and part of this salary is actually we are working for free for the publishers. So as I said before, so the APC-based journals have broken the barrier of access, but this system also imposes some ethical issues, because we have actually broken the access, the barriers of access, but we impose through this model a barrier, economic barrier. So in this figure by the colleagues that in the reference, what they did was to calculate the number of months of minimum salary equivalent to APC, article processing charge, 1,750 euros. Okay, so what we see is, for example, in rich countries like Germany, UK, France, actually one APC, what we pay to publish in a journal of open access, it's equivalent to almost 2 months of work for someone that gained the minimum salary, right? For the rich countries. But if we look, for example, the developing country, I think you have noticed already that I'm from Colombia, and when I look my country, it's shocking, because we can see there that is the salary of 1 year, right? So when I discuss with my colleagues from Colombia, they say, well, we actually cannot afford to pay an APC. It's just too much for the economy Colombia, Latin American universities. So then it comes the solution of exploiting the preprints. So what is a preprint? So a preprint is a version of a scientific manuscript that is posted in a public server prior to formal review. And this is for free. So for free, both for the readers and authors. So the authors can post this manuscript in these servers for free, and of course the readers can also have access. And something that is very important is that once it is posted, I think, do you hear me? Because
yes.
Thank you, Christian. Okay, so so the idea is that the preprints can be cited, and it is very important because for us, what is the major objective also when we publish is that the community can read and can cite our work. Okay? So this is very important. Okay, so preprints are a good model because they accelerate the scientific progress, the scientific dissemination of research outcomes. So it provides a tool to have immediate access, and it's for free, right? And it also allows to have a proof of anteriority, because if you're working in a subject and you publish it within, well, this is also a proof of your work, like and it helps for the archive of knowledge. And many platforms like Google, for example, include in the search information in preprints. And when this is actually a tool that is very important for early career researchers, because there is also a way to disseminate the work and to show that actually the work is going on. And these also it's a very good tool for people at the early stage of the career, because you know that the process of publication takes a lot of time. But of course, these preprints, they have a problem that there is no evaluation, there is no peer review. So if there is no peer review, there is no guarantee of the quality of those preprints. So the idea behind PCI is then, well, we have a very nice system that facilitates the dissemination of science, but we don't have the peer review. So PCI actually brings a solution through the proposition of a model that will evaluate those preprints. So the peer community initiative is a community of researchers that will evaluate through the peer review and recommend preprints in the scientific field. So in the right, you see the different PCIs, and you can see genomics, animal science. And in the left, you have some of preprint servers, and I think bioRxiv is very well known server, and arXiv is one of the first because the more focus on mathematics and physics. These are a community that's very familiar with the preprints, and they have used this preprint for many years, and other examples of preprints. So how does it work? So the author will deposit in a preprint the manuscript together with the data and the script. For example, I am modeler, so I share my script of the model or the statistical analysis. So the authors deposit the manuscript, everything in a repository that is public. And after, once all this information is in the repository, we have a DOI, so a digital object identifier, or an URL, right? So this information then will be used to submit the manuscript to PCI. So you only need the DOI, the link of your manuscript. And there it enters to the system, and we have what we call the recommenders, and the recommenders are exactly the same as associate editors. So all the recommenders actually have access to the information about the manuscript that have been submitted. And there will be one recommender. When there is one recommender that finds the article of interest, will take in hand the evaluation of the article, right? And actually, is the first recommender that takes is the one who takes the evaluation, right? And this is the principle. anybody that is in recommender of PCI, if she sees that the article is of interest and is in her field, can take the article. If the article doesn't raise interest of the recommenders, it will go out from the system after, let's say, 25 days. If in 25 days nobody takes the article, so the article go out. So this recommender actually at the end will initiate the process of evaluation in the same way of a journal, in the same way of the. So she will select some reviewers, at least two, and these two reviewers can be anonymous. It's up to them to decide. So they will do the evaluation, they will post the evaluation in the platform, and the normal process of rounds will initiate. So let's say that in the first time the reviewers suggest to do modifications, so the authors will then reply to the reviewers, and will then post an updated version of the manuscript with the comments, taking into account the comments of the reviewers, and so on until the recommender decides that it has all elements to take a decision. And this decision can be to reject the article, actually, and if the article is rejected, it goes out from the system, or if it is accepted, then here is the difference of PCI. Because if it is accepted, the recommender will write what we call a recommendation. So it's a short text explaining the context of the article, what are the interests of the article, and what was deserved to be accepted, recommended. And together with this text that is written by the recommender, all the evaluations done by the reviewers will be posted, will be accessible. And this is what we call open peer review, right? And the particularity here is that the reviewers, as I said, they can show the identity or not. So this is just a decision of the college. So at the end, we have a preprint that is freely accessible. So PCI doesn't publish the preprints because the preprints are in the server. So, but it provides a stamp of quality. And this stamp of quality, for example, in some preprint servers like bioRxiv, you can see that there is a little stamp of our logo, and you can really track when the preprint has been approved, accepted by PCI. So this was the normal process, but the authors actually can stop there, but they actually can continue the process and to submit this recommended article to journals. So we have a journal that is called Per Community Journal. It's a diamond open access journal, so it's a journal that is for free. And if the authors decide to publish there, so it's just a matter of organize some layout things, but there is no further peer review because it has been already peer reviewed by PCI. Another option is to go to PCI-friendly journals. I will talk about this after, or to other journals that accept the model of preprints, that many journals actually accept preprints right now. So here are the three categories of PCI-friendly journals. So the first one is accepted without further reviews, so like the peer community journal is one of them. The second category is that the journal is engaged to provide a fast response. This could be accepted without further reviews, need of further reviews, or not interested. But in 5 days, the author will have this information. And the third category is that they can use the evaluation of PCI, if appropriate, in their own evaluation process. So here, I just pick up some journals that can be of interest for animal science, so eLife plus biology plus one more multidisciplinary journal, animal welfare, veterinary research, animal and animal microbiome, some of the PCI-friendly journals. And currently, we're waiting the response of a couple of journals that are actually in the field. So I think you will feel represented also with this connection that we are having with different journals in the animal science domain. So here we have an example of an article that was recommended by PCI Animal Science. And here we have the recommendation. And here in the right, we have the article that was published further in Animal. And in animal, we have the information of the review done by PCI Animal Science. And here, some words about the per community journal. So it was launched this November. And as I say, it accepts the articles as they are because they have been already peer reviewed by PCI. So this means by all the PCI. So it's like a super multidisciplinary journal gathering all the PCIs. So it's diamond, which means that nobody is for free for the readers and for the authors. So the authors, they don't have to pay APC. And for the moment, we have already 100 articles with all the domain. So here we have an example of 2 articles in the section Animal Science. So we have per community journal, and each section corresponds to each PCI, to the PCI. Okay, so here we have 2 examples. So some more information about PCI. So at the moment there are 14 per communities, about 1,600 recommenders, and the median time to the first decision is 49. I want to say that, I mean, we are, our philosophy is not to provide the fast evaluation. No? So we stick to have rigorous evaluation of the process. So, but of course, have the editorial aspects. We expect that the total process is fast compared to the traditional tools. And well, here also some information about the different PCIs. I highlight, well, already PCI Animal Science, but I know that you are sensitive to the pre-registration. So there is one PCA dedicated to register reports as well. So there is, we have already the support of different scientific societies from France, but also from other European countries. Also many institutions, of course, France many, but also from Belgium and Max Planck and other universities are and institutions are joining this initiative. Here also, well, some other supporters and also more information about awards that this initiative has won. So few words about PCI Animal Science. We have we launched in May 2019. We operate like a journal, so 8 members. We have 8 members. At the moment, we have 65 recommenders from 21 countries. 38% of our recommenders are women, 62 men. At the moment, we have received 24 submissions, of which 10 have been recommended, 8 are under evaluation, and 6 have been not considered or rejected or canceled. So PCI Animal, the scope is all the research associated to domestic animals and laboratory animals as well. So all the research done in animal science is covered by PCI Animal Science. So here just another example of the website. So here in the website you can see the different articles that have been recommended. Here you can see, for example, this is the article, and here you can see this is the recommendation. So the recommendation is also a document that can be cited as a DOI, which actually it's very nice because it's a way to recognize the work of the recommenders and also the reviewers. So you can see, for example, these recommendations. We have the name of the recommender, and we have here the information about the reviews. 2 reviewers, one of them Arata Dilano, and the other one that is anonymous. And here you have in the right the group of the editorial board. I think you probably know Anna Olson and Isabel Vissier, that are researchers working in animal welfare. So here are some recommenders. So you can see already Christian, Birte Nielsen as well, Anna Olson. So there are already some colleagues in your domain that joined the initiative. So this initiative is open to everyone, and I'm happy also that more people will join. So here another example of information that we have on the website. We have the profile of each recommender. So there is a recommendation of our colleague Pauline Esano. And as I said, this is also a way to recognize the actions that we do in the evaluation of scientific publications. So, well, the message is, of course, an invitation to join us. Different ways to support is to submit your articles to PCI Animal Science, to spread the word. Also to give us contact of potential institutions that can support us. And there are two kind of supports. There is the support of principle, right? So institutions that say, we consider that the model of PCI is equivalent to an article published in a journal, for example. This is very important. But also there is a financial support. So INRAE is, for instance, one of the financial supporters also of this initiative. Become recommenders for the, normally it's the profile of a recommender is the profile of an associate editor, so a senior scientist, and accept the invitations to review. And of course, again, one of the best way to support PCI is to submit your articles to the initiative. So with this, I would like to thank you. So here we have the website of PCI Animal Science, the email of the contact, but well, normally so the managing will actually receive messages from here, also myself. And this is my professional email. We'll be happy if you contact me to ask more information if you're interested to get more information about the initiative. Please follow us in Twitter. You will be updated about the different things, the different articles, and the people that who are joining the initiative. And with that, I also would like to share with you two articles. The first one is a preprint that you can see already Christian and also Bertenis, in which we discuss about different aspects to enhance open science in our domain. And another article of some colleagues from PCI that analyze actually ways to look for more ethical models for scientific publishing. So with that, I would like to thank you. I will be happy to discuss with you.
Thanks, Rafael, for the great overview. I assume there will be many questions on the format, on the initiative itself. Feel free, as I mentioned at the very beginning, to drop your messages and your questions in the chat, or raise your virtual hand, and I can, and you can ask your question live if you prefer that. There's probably a bit of typing going on right now, so I just start with one thing that I was stumbling upon during the presentation. There's often this notion that people might argue against preprints because there might be low quality preprinted that never gets accepted at the journal. And you mentioned that if recommenders recommend this preprint, they will get this little badge from PCI. I was wondering what happened to preprints that are rejected either by the recommender or by the reviewers. Are they basically asked to at least change or alter the preprint, or will this have no consequences whatsoever?
Yes, I mean, for us, it doesn't have any consequence. The only consequence for the author is that we'll get at least 2 reviews to improve the manuscript, right? But we are not going to publish anything saying this article is not good. So from the model of PCI is only to recommend those articles that are that meets the standard. Well, you know, it's also a matter of subjectivity, but for those that are rejected, there is no other. They goes out from the system, from PCI.
Okay.
There are other initiatives, you know, like PubPeer, for example. For peer, you can say this is not good article, right? You can criticize the article, but PCI no. PCI only It's a stamp of quality, and I can show you. I don't know if, but you can in BioArchive you can see, and there are other websites in which you can see. Europe PMC is like PubMed, but it's for free, and you can see, for example, if you put the title of a preprint, you will see if this preprint has been comment in any platform of peer review, open peer review, and you can track this information.
Now, this question was just out of curiosity. I mean, if people do not submit to PCI, bad quality preprints will still be on the web and will have a DOI that is citable. So, yeah, I was just wondering whether there's any recommendation from the recommenders saying that they need to improve the preprint and not let it stay as it is or something like that. Whether this is the place. But thanks for your answer. We have quite a bunch of questions coming in. Lindsay is asking, how common is it that the department pays the article processing charge it, or is it usually just the PI?
Well, I think it depends on the institute. In our case, for example, we are actually working a lot in project-oriented model. So each of us needs to go to get the money for the project. So it's almost each PI which is taken in charge. And this money comes from public funding. So when we participate in the public calls, so there is a part of the budget called open access publication. This is one aspect. But we have in our team, for example, this is very new. We decide in our team that each researcher will have money for one article. So our department, our institute will pay one article, but it's not enough. So this means that we need to look for this money. It's money. What I say is money that is going away from science. So, and this is actually the second article about the ethics of publishing. Are the colleagues are really they discuss this in detail, and they propose the diamond, for example, is a very interesting model. I think Christian participates in a journal working on this model, and but a lot of money is going there.
Thanks, Rafael. Jen has a question also. Thanks, Rafael, for the talk. Sorry, I missed a bit of information when you mentioned the relationship between PCI and other journals. If they accept a recommendation from PCI to publish an article, I assume the authors still need to pay APCs to those journals. Do I understand correctly? But later, you mentioned some diamond journals can be free to publish, which I'm a bit confused. Can you talk a bit more about that, please? I think that touches the questions before.
Yes. Yes. Thanks, Yanshu. It's a very, very important question, because the model of PCI is completely free, right? If you go once the process is finished, what you pay depends on your choice as an author. So if you go for a diamond journal, in the diamond journal, there is no APC, so it's for free. And one of these journals is the community journal. So if you go to this option, you don't pay. But if you go to Animal, Animal you have to pay if your article is accepted. But it's the choice. It's the choice of the author, and it's independent from PCI. I hope I was clear.
Yeah, I think so. There's another question from Said. I was wondering what would be benefits for early career researchers to explore, for example, cons and pros comparing BioArchive. And are there any subscription options to publish our manuscripts? Which again, I think touches the question before.
Yeah, I think for early career researchers, I think it's always, I mean, the early career researchers are at the center of a difficult situation, because from one side you need to show that you publish in the traditional journals that are known by your community. And on the other side, the publication takes a lot of time. So sometimes you also need to show that you are doing science and you are sharing the science. And for example, I'll give you an example. When you apply for a job, right? If you have submitted some article to journals, so in your CV, you will put, this article has been submitted to this journal. But this, in reality, doesn't mean anything, because, of course, we cannot put in question that you're lying, but this information, well, you can put, well, I have 10 articles submitted, right? But it's not the same if you say, I am this article submitted, and you can find a preliminary version of the article in this preprint server, because there is a proof that is actually a real manuscript there. So this also helps a lot. I have a very good experience with a colleague that did a postdoc with us, and he was working on a very nice topic. He published the preprint, and when he was going to the conference, presenting his work, at the same time he was discussing everything, and the people were coming to ask him, that was very nice talk, and he was saying, look, I have already a preprint, and I give you the details, and this made that this article became is very well cited. Even before it was published to the journal, the article was already cited. And Christian knows better than me that actually in Google Scholar you can merge the citations, and this is a very good way to disseminate. So I really encourage the early career researchers to use the preprints. After the PCI model itself, it's a choice. So you can say, okay, at least I can try one of my articles, but it is a choice. But I think the preprint is a very good way to go. And there we are really in a model that is fully free. So I think it's a good way. And you don't have subscriptions. It's fully free.
Thanks, Rafael. I have another question. I was wondering, you showed this list of supporters or supporting affiliations, supporting journals, and in particular for the affiliations, I was wondering, and I know this can differ from country to country. So at our affiliation, basically the affiliation looks at the impact factor as a metric. So publish high and publish as often as you can, and so on. I know that in the UK you have the research excellence framework, which is also having different metrics, but probably relying heavily on impact factor and similar factors. When you mentioned that there is a list of supporting institutions, what does this actually entail for the supporters? Does this also mean that they have something implemented in terms of research evaluations that would consider something like PCI as impact or as a publication, as it would have been basically a publication in a peer-reviewed journal, or what does it entail actually?
Yes, Christian, thanks for this question. That is very important remark. So what is, so these institutions actually that support, so it's what I call the support of principle, is that they consider the publication in PCI like if they were publication in journals. For example, in the school where I work, the PhD candidates, they need to publish, I think, one article in a journal to be authorized to defend the PhD, right? So if they have one recommended article by PCI, it fulfills the requirements of the school. So this is something very good. So at the institution level, the things are starting to change. You also mentioned the impact factor and all these metrics. So this is also evolving, and I think it's evolving. In this particular year, is evolving very fast. So many institutions don't consider anymore the impact factor as a metric of research assessment. Many of the institutions that are there are signatory of the DORA, the Declaration of Research Assessment of San Francisco, and that consider that the impact factor is not a right measurement of individual research. So this means that the way research is evaluated is also changing. And PCI, for example, well, PCI itself, we don't have impact factor because we are not journal. Per community journal, probably will have, but we will never display the impact factor in the website because we, as PCI, we are against this type of metric. So we see also that many people trying to investigate to develop new metrics, and this is the situation. So to summarize, Christian, yes, these institutions, they consider recommendations of PCI exactly the same in theory. In theory, because we know that the people are still looking at the impact factor, and but little by little things are changing.
Yeah, thanks. Let's hope for some progress in this area. I don't see any more questions, and I have a last one, which just came to mind. Have you, because I assume when you have established cooperation with journals that are PCI friendly, usually PCI reaches out, or you get some requests from the editors of the journal and they ask whether you can collaborate on this. Has it ever happened that so-called semi or full predatory journals have contacted PCI because they would get for free already peer-reviewed articles that they can then publish in their journals, whether they contacted PCI directly or might target or contact the authors of the PCI recommended preprints. Do you know if any of that happened? Because it would be basically, yeah, they could basically get some money in and have a fully peer-reviewed quality article for their journal, which would probably need it be against everything that PCI stands for.
Yeah, well, we haven't been contacted directly, but we have a discussion in the PCI organization about MDPI journals. And this is very difficult to generalize because there are journals in this family that are very good, that they perform rigorous review, and the others that don't. So there is a controversial issue there. I think we have some MDPI that is taking like little each case by case, but I think the contact has not been in the from the journal to PCI, but more editors to consider that some MDPI journals are doing well, because MDPI actually they are not considered to be predatory journals. However, there are some concerns about some. So this to respond to your question, but the thing is, I mean, if someone decides to go to PCI, why to waste the work of having a full evaluation and rigorous after to submit to a predatory journal? So I think the people that decides to go is because they want to have rigorous review, and I actually few people are going to the predatory journal, so we don't have actually this experience that you guys.
Okay, thanks. No, I was just curious because you basically list the recommended preprints, so I thought that authors might get contact from.
I've been contacted as an author, but I don't think that is particularly because the article has been recommended by PCI, just because it's in the preprint. Because you cannot distinguish, right? If someone contacts you, because since the article is in the preprint server, so the predatory journals they don't know, they have this algorithm that they send the emails. So
okay.
they don't know. There are some journals that they have editors of preprints, and there are people that are looking the articles that are in preprints and they contact the authors, but it's a different approach. Really, people, real people, not algorithms, looking at the preprints. This is the different story.
Yeah.
And when you asked me, Christian, about the evaluation, I wanted to also to share with you that at least in France, what we have seen is that the research evaluation now is considered open science actions as a criteria of research evaluation. So these are things that are evolving at the individual level, but also at the level of your team and your institution. So there are going to be some metrics about how your team is doing in open science. So things are changing.
Yeah, I'm looking very much forward to this development and its implementation. There are, thanks for answering all these questions and comments. There are no further questions in the chat box now. We are almost at 9 p.m. as well. So I just would like to thank you again, Rafael, for presenting the PCI Animal Science Initiative today. Glad that we had you. I think according to the comments, lots of people learned quite a bit about this publishing approach, about preprinting, and about diamond open access journals, for example. So I'm looking very much forward on the PCI animal science development as well. Thanks also to the audience for attending today, for joining us in our Applying Pathology webinar. And we hope we will see many of you again on our next webinar on April 4th, where we will talk about Glade Massey will talk about bodies and boxes, what factors influence the welfare of rescued wildlife. So have a good evening or have a good day, depending on the time zone you're in. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks again.